Okay, so have you ever, like, woken up and already felt like behind? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
So,
totally.
like, just bombarded, right? Like,
Mhm.
boom, all these notifications, your inbox is overflowing, like the whole digital world just exploded.
Right.
And it's like, whoa.
It's too much.
Yeah. And you're just left there to kind of like pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
Our sources are calling this whole thing a maximalist world.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting because it's not always a bad thing,
Right?
right? Like, there are so many opportunities out there.
Of course. Yeah.
But it's when it becomes this overwhelming mental jumble.
Yeah, like a constant state of information overload.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to be diving deep into today.
Okay, cool.
So, how do we not just survive, but actually thrive in this environment?
Right. How do we navigate it?
Yeah. And our sources are pointing to a couple of really interesting things.
Okay.
First is something called an experimental mindset.
Okay.
And the second is actually using AI to our advantage,
Interesting.
specifically LLMs and agentic AI.
So using the chaos as the sort of a laboratory.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. And we're going to kind of give you the tools to design your own experiments
Cool.
to figure out what works best for you.
I think that's a really empowering approach,
Yeah.
Instead of just feeling overwhelmed, we're taking control.
Right.
It's about finding strategies to actually work with this abundance of information.
Exactly. Because it's not going away.
No, definitely not.
So let's get into the nuts and bolts here.
Okay.
What are the defining characteristics of this so-called maximalist world?
Well, I think it comes down to the sheer volume of everything.
Okay.
We have access to more information than ever before.
Right.
Endless choices in every aspect of life.
Uh-huh.
And it creates this constant stream of stimuli, all competing for our attention.
And the sources describe this as leading to kind of a maximalist brain,
Yes, exactly.
which sounds cool, but
It can be.
it has its downsides.
Right, because it's like having, a computer with way too many tabs open.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually things start to slow down.
Right. You can't handle it all.
Exactly. And that's where we get to the problem of cognitive overload.
Okay, so let's break that down.
Sure.
What does that actually feel like for you, the listener? What are some of the signs that you might be experiencing cognitive overload?
Well, essentially it happens when the demands on your working memory just exceed its capacity.
Okay.
You know that mental space where we process information in the short term?
Right.
So you might find it really hard to focus.
Uh-huh.
Your attention might be all over the place.
Yeah.
You might struggle to remember things, even simple things.
Oh, yeah. Been there.
Making decisions can feel like a huge chore,
Oh, for sure.
and your overall productivity just plummets.
Right. You're putting in the hours, but not getting much done.
Exactly, and you just constantly feel swamped.
Like your brain is hitting a wall.
Totally.
And what's interesting to me is that it's not just about getting work done.
Right.
It affects so many other areas of our lives.
Absolutely. It has a ripple effect.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So our sources highlight the impacts on emotional well-being.
Okay.
Being constantly overwhelmed can lead to frustration.
Uh-huh.
You might feel detached from things you used to enjoy.
Right. Like you're just going through the motions.
Yeah, and even simple things can trigger irritability or anger.
And it can even affect our social interactions.
Definitely when your mental resources are depleted,
Yeah.
it's harder to read social cues.
Right. You might misinterpret things.
Exactly. And on top of all that, it can even manifest physically.
Really?
Yeah, things like headaches, sleep problems, digestive issues.
Wow. So it's like this whole body experience.
It really is.
It's a bit ironic, isn't it?
What's that?
Well, we've adopted all these digital tools to supposedly make our lives easier.
Right.
But as our sources point out, they often end up contributing to the overload.
Oh, absolutely. All those notifications, the constant scrolling.
Right. It's like we're tethered to these devices.
Yeah, then they're constantly pulling us in different directions.
Yeah. So it's not just the external stuff. It's also about how we think about things.
That's a really important point.
Our own internal beliefs can make this whole thing so much worse.
Yeah, the sources talk about these limiting beliefs.
Yeah. Tell us more about those.
Well, they identify three main ones.
Okay.
The first is the cynical mindset, which is all about distrust and pessimism.
Okay. So if you're always assuming the worst,
Yeah.
that's not going to be helpful.
Like you're constantly bracing for failure.
And it makes it harder to see solutions.
Exactly.
Okay. What's the second one?
The escapist mindset.
Okay.
This is when you're constantly seeking distractions.
Right. Like scrolling through social media or binge watching shows.
Exactly. It's a way to avoid dealing with the root of the problem.
Yeah. It feels good in the moment,
Okay.
but it doesn't actually solve anything.
Nope. In fact, it often makes things worse.
Okay. And the third one.
The perfectionist mindset.
Okay.
This can be really paralyzing.
How so?
Well, the fear of not being perfect
Right.
prevents you from even starting things.
Oh, I see. So tasks pile up and the overwhelm just intensifies.
Exactly.
So we're basically trapped in this vicious cycle.
Yeah, it can feel that way.
But there is a way out.
There is.
And that's where the experimental mindset comes in.
Right, it's about approaching things differently.
So instead of feeling like a victim of the chaos,
Yeah.
we become more like scientists conducting experiments.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And the focus shifts from achieving perfection to just learning from the process.
It's about embracing those setbacks as valuable data points.
And the sources use the example of Maya, the marketing executive.
Oh, yeah, she's a great example.
Can you walk us through her story?
Sure, so Maya was feeling super overwhelmed by her job,
Okay.
and she decided to try this experimental approach.
Okay.
She started with a simple question.
What was it?
How can I feel more focused in the mornings?
Okay.
So her first experiment was waking up 30 minutes earlier
Okay.
to do some meditation.
Okay.
And then she tracked her focus and mood throughout the day.
Interesting. And what did she find?
She noticed a big improvement.
Really?
Yeah, she felt sharper and calmer.
Wow, that's great.
So that encouraged her to try another experiment.
What did she do?
She started batching her emails.
Okay.
Instead of constantly checking them.
Huh?
She designated 2 specific times to go through her inbox.
Interesting. And how did that go?
She found that she was way more productive
Okay.
and less stressed.
So it's all about these small tweaks and then observing the results.
Exactly. It's not about finding the perfect solution right away.
It's about experimenting and seeing what works.
And what's really cool is that it gave Maya a sense of agency.
Right, like she wasn't just reacting to things anymore.
She was taking control.
So what are the key ingredients of this experimental mindset?
The sources break it down into 4 main characteristics.
Okay, I'm ready.
So first, it's purposeful.
Meaning?
Your experiments are driven by specific questions or goals.
Okay, so you're not just randomly trying things.
Right. You have an intention.
Got it. Okay, what's next?
It's continuous.
So you're always building on what you've learned.
Exactly. It's a cycle of ongoing refinement.
Okay.
Third,
It's trackable.
so you're actually gathering data to see what's working.
Yes, exactly.
Makes sense. And lastly,
It's actionable.
the meaning.
The insights from your experiments lead to concrete steps forward.
So it's not just about thinking about it, it's about actually doing something.
Exactly. And when you embrace these characteristics,
Yeah.
you start to see the maximalist world as a source of opportunity.
Instead of just overwhelm.
Right.
Okay, so we have our compass, the experimental mindset.
Right.
Now let's talk about our ally,
Who's that?
artificial intelligence.
Ah, yes, especially Agentic AI.
How can these technologies help us navigate this constantly accelerating world?
Well, even with the best mindset, keeping up with everything can be a challenge.
Oh, for sure.
There's just so many possibilities.
Right.
And it can feel overwhelming to manage it all.
Yeah.
So AI can act as a sort of a co-pilot.
Okay, I like that. It can help us amplify our efforts.
In what way?
Well, LLMs can be like reflective partners.
Okay.
They can help us analyze the data from our experiments,
Uh-huh.
identify patterns, and even suggest new avenues to explore.
So it's like having an extra brain helping us make sense of things.
Exactly. And then Agentic AI takes it a step further.
How so?
It can automate some of the logistical burdens.
Okay, so it's like having a research assistant and a personal organizer all in one.
Exactly.
Let's go back to Maya for a second.
Sure.
How did she start using LLMs and Agentic AI in her experiments?
Well, she started using an LLM as a digital journal.
Okay.
Every evening, she would log her observations.
Uh-huh.
And the LLM would prompt her with insightful questions.
Like what?
Things like, what surprised you today? Or what recurring themes are you noticing?
So it was helping her dig deeper into her experiences.
Exactly. And it also suggested relevant articles and resources.
Based on her goals.
Right.
So it was like a personalized learning path. That's pretty amazing. And what about Agentic AI? How did that come into play?
So Agentic AI started managing Maya's schedule.
Okay.
It learned her meeting times her task priorities,
What?
even her energy levels throughout the day.
Wow. So it was really getting to know her.
It was, and based on that, it would proactively schedule blocks of time for focused work,
Okay.
send reminders for breaks,
Uh-huh.
and even suggest adjustments to her Pomodoro interval.
So it was constantly adapting to her needs.
Right, it wasn't just following a set of
This
rules.
is more like a personalized assistant.
Exactly.
So it's this combination, right?
Yeah.
The LLM helps us understand ourselves better,
Uh-huh.
and the Agentic AI takes care of the logistics.
Exactly. It frees up our mental energy
So we can focus on the bigger picture.
and make real progress.
Now, earlier we talked about those limiting beliefs.
Right, the cynical, the escapist and the perfectionist.
How can AI help us overcome those?
Well, AI is objective and consistent.
Right.
It doesn't have those same biases.
So it can kind of cut through the noise.
Exactly. And the sources give some really interesting examples.
Okay, let's hear them.
So there's Alex, a cynical developer.
Okay.
He was really skeptical of new technologies.
Ah,
But then an AI analytics tool showed him data
okay.
that proved that his coding efficiency actually improved with a new framework.
So the data challenged his cynicism.
Exactly.
What about the escapist mindset?
Well, Sarah, the writer, was constantly getting distracted.
Oh, yeah, I can relate to that.
But her agentic AI acted as a gentle guide.
Okay.
It would monitor her screen time and subtly nudge her back to her writing.
So it was like a digital accountability partner.
In a way, yes, but without the judgment.
That's important.
And finally, there's Tom, the perfectionist designer.
Okay.
He was afraid to experiment because he didn't want to make mistakes.
Uh-huh.
So he used an AI tool to generate multiple design variations.
Interesting.
This allowed him to explore different options without the pressure of being perfect.
So it took some of the fear out of the process. So in each of these cases, AI provides a sort of safe space for experimentation.
Yes, it helps us step outside of those limiting beliefs.
And embrace the possibility of growth.
Exactly.
Now, looking ahead, what does the future hold for AI and this idea of mindful mastery?
Well, the sources paint a pretty amazing picture.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
They talk about AI becoming even more personalized and sophisticated.
In what way?
Imagine agentic AI designing custom experiments for you
Okay.
to optimize your sleep, your diet, your learning.
Wow, so it would be like having a personal coach.
In a way, yes, but powered by all your individual data.
And LLMs could become even more powerful brainstorming partners.
Exactly, helping us solve complex problems and unlock creative solutions.
Like AI would be this incredible amplifier for human potential.
Exactly, freeing us up to focus on the things that truly matter.
But of course, we have to be mindful of the risks, too.
Of course.
We can't become overly reliant on AI.
Right, it's a tool, not a replacement for our own thinking.
So the key takeaway from this deep dive is that we're living in this incredible time.
We are.
This maximalist world is full of challenges, but also incredible opportunities.
And we have these new tools to help us navigate it.
The experimental mindset and the power of AI.
It's about finding that synergy between human ingenuity and technological advancement.
So to our listeners out there, I encourage you to step into your own personal lab.
Yes. Start experimenting.
Try tweaking your morning routine or building a new habit.
And don't be afraid to track your progress and learn from your mistakes.
AI can help you along the way.
Offering insights, automating tasks, and guiding you toward greater clarity.
So here's a final thought for you.
Okay, I'm listening.
In this world of constant acceleration and complexity,
Yeah.
how can we use these tools not just to survive, but to truly thrive and unlock our full potential?
That's the question we all need to be asking ourselves.
And experimenting with.
Absolutely.